Hey guys, welcome to my channel Miss Recap. A man named Chuck was shocked when he saw that rainwater was leaking into the luxurious bungalow he had purchased for a hefty sum. He immediately took pictures and sent them to the property agent, silently cursing him. After that, he went to his wife's studio to check if there was any water leaking there as well. His wife, Maria, was a fashion designer and was doing a live session at the time, sharing her designing experience. Fortunately, her studio was completely dry. That's when Chuck noticed an old mannequin standing in the corner of the room. One that his wife really liked so much that she had brought it along to the new bungalow. Then he went outside the bungalow to check if there were any other issues. Just then, he ran into a neighbor, Larry, who was surprised that the bungalow had actually been sold. During the conversation, Larry revealed that the previous owner of the bungalow had committed suicide there. Chuck was stunned to hear this, as the agent had never mentioned it. He returned home and began looking at the leakage photos again. That's when he noticed a shotgun in one of the pictures. Even though there were no weapons in the house, he was confused as to where the gun had come from. But the strange events didn't stop there. The next morning, while he was walking in the bungalow's garden, he saw his wife's mannequin model standing bizarrely in the garden. Just then, Larry came by again and started inspecting the situation. Chuck began to suspect that it could be a prank by his younger sister, who had been mentally unstable since their mother's accident a few months ago. Larry advised him to pay attention to his sister's mental state. He also suggested that he should go to the nearby public library and read about the history of the area. Along with that, he was also invited to attend a meeting of a local group. In the afternoon, he went to the library, and while flipping through books, he finally found one that contained a deep history of the small village. Just as he was about to leave, he noticed some books scattered on the floor. At that moment, Ashley was sitting nearby and crying. She warned him not to take too much interest in the village's secrets, or the consequences could be very dangerous. But Chuck thought she was crazy and ignored her words. He took the books and went to the library counter. When the librarian saw the books, her eyes widened. She immediately warned Chuck not to explore that particular place, as no one had been able to reach it so far. Chuck replied that he hadn't thought of anything like that. He just wanted to understand the history. He also told her about the crying girl and the scattered books on the floor. The librarian suddenly became very serious and quickly left. Chuck quietly returned home. Once home, he began reading the books, which were connected to a secret conference from 1980. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. At the door stood his old student, Olivia, who had come for a music lesson. Chuck was a music teacher, and that day, a new student was attending class for the first time. In the beginning, Olivia was a bit nervous, so Chuck went to the kitchen to get some water to lighten the mood. But just then, the sound of piano music filled the room, like a professional performance. Chuck was shocked because when he turned around, Olivia was standing at the kitchen door. Seeing this, both of them were stunned. As Chuck moved back toward the piano, everything became quiet, and there was no trace of the woman Olivia had mentioned. Olivia, terrified, immediately ran away from there. That night, when Chuck was alone because his wife had gone out for office work, he attended the garden club meeting that Larry had told him about. There, a sensitive topic was being discussed, one that the people of this village usually preferred not to touch. There were only 6 people at the meeting, and Chuck noticed that the person who worked at the library was also present. They were talking about a girl named Helen Foster who had recently attempted suicide. The librarian said the incident reminded him of an old event from 1980, when a woman named Helen took her own life. Her daughter was being constantly bullied at school, and no one stepped up to help. In her grief and anger, she shot herself in their home. Since then, there has been a mysterious suicide in the village every year. People believe that it's all happening because of Helen's spirit. They believe this will continue until the truth about Helen's house, now lost to everyone, is uncovered. The meeting gradually turned more and more frightening, and everyone decided to end it. But as soon as Chuck stepped outside, he heard a woman's laughter coming from the nearby old church. Terrified, he rushed home and went to his sister Isabel's room. Isabel still hadn't gotten over the grief of their mother's passing, and often had nightmares in which she repeatedly saw their mother. Whenever that happened, she would come to Chuck and share her fears to feel lighter. That evening, Isabel's school friend Luke came to visit her. Luke had lived in this village since childhood and was familiar with many of its scary stories. She told Isabel the entire story of Helen's suicide in great detail. That night, while Isabel was sleeping, The bathroom light suddenly turned on by itself. She got up and turned it off, but after a while it turned on again. She thought there might be an issue with the switch, so she unscrewed the bulb and placed it on the bedside table. But as soon as she tried to sleep again, something very strange started happening. The mysterious events just wouldn't stop. The next morning when Isabel woke up, she saw the sun had already risen. At first she thought it might all have been a bad dream. But when she looked at the bulb on the bedside table, she realized that everything that happened during the night was real. Isabel immediately told her friend Luke about it. Just then, her brother Chuck called and told her to come home immediately. When she got home, she saw that her sister-in-law, Maria, was very frightened. Actually, a little while ago, Maria was doing a live session in her design studio when something strange happened. The hands of the mannequin behind her started moving on their own. Her best friend, who was watching live, immediately called her, but Maria thought she was being interrupted about the bridal dress, so she sent a video explaining that the dress was already ready. However, when she sat in front of the camera again, she was shocked. The mannequin had vanished. She hadn't even noticed it moving. Her friends started sending her message after message, urging her to get out of the room immediately, but Maria took it lightly and continued the live session. A little while later, when she went to show the mannequin's dress, she saw that it wasn't there at all. Suddenly, a loud noise came from the adjacent room. Maria was a little startled, but despite her fear, she cautiously moved toward the room. It was only then that she realized the truth about the dummy model. When Chuck heard everything, he came without wasting any time, and together they set the dummy on fire. Chuck explained that the previous owner of the bungalow had committed suicide there, which might have left some negative energy behind. It was decided that they would leave the bungalow. Isabel was told to pack her things and shift to the college hostel. Luke also came there to help. During this time, Luke's eyes fell on a photo hanging on the wall. It was of Isabel and her mother together. He told Isabel something shocking. "Your mother doesn't look at all like you described her. The condition of the picture and the presence of your mother in it feel very different." Isabel was stunned and immediately revealed that her mother had passed away just a few months ago in an accident. Hearing this, Luke was taken aback, because he had recently seen Isabel's mother walking around in the house. While they were still confused and thinking about it, they suddenly heard the sound of utensils falling in the kitchen. Frightened, both of them rushed downstairs. But as soon as they got down, the atmosphere in the house had completely changed. The room was unusually cold, and the air carried strange, sobbing-like sounds. Luke couldn't handle it and left the house with an excuse. As soon as Luke left, Isabel heard someone softly calling her name from behind. Fearfully, she turned around, but saw no one. Just then, Maria arrived and tried to stop her, but Isabel insisted that she would uncover the truth behind the mystery. Frightened, both ran back to their rooms. Shortly after, a scream came from Maria's room. Isabel rushed toward her. The door was slowly opening on its own. Maria was terribly scared. Crying, she ran into Isabel's room. There was fear on her face and blood was dripping from her nose. But she wasn't even aware of what was happening to her. When things calmed down a bit, Luke returned. He had an old map in his hand. He said that by comparing the 1923 planner's book and the current city mapping, he had found the exact location of an old place, 825 Forest Road. Meanwhile, Chuck had made up his mind to personally confront the man who had betrayed his wife. Isabel insisted on going with him. Just then, an agent arrived from outside. He had come to ask for help with an ad shoot, but Chuck had to leave immediately for something important. Maria, who had just started feeling a bit normal, stayed back to help the agent. Isabel sensed something was off, so she told Luke to stay with Maria while she and Chuck headed toward the old address, 825 Forest Road. On the way, Chuck said that if it turned out to be that same house, he would burn it down. Meanwhile, Maria was helping the agent with the shoot, but suddenly the agent began speaking in some strange, unknown language. On the other side, Chuck and Isabel were passing through a dense forest and had reached a house that looked like a ruin. They broke a window and went inside, looking for any signs of the number. They quietly went up to the upper floor and saw that the mansion was identical to Chuck's house from the inside. Just then, a shadow passed behind them. At the same time, Maria, who was at home, suddenly started talking about an old incident from 1980. She said that her daughter was terribly bullied at school, and she had asked for help many times, but no one came forward. In reality, The spirit of the woman who had committed suicide years ago had now taken over Maria's body. On the other hand, Chuck found a wooden box underground that contained several letters written to the school. All of them were in the same woman's handwriting and had been returned. Her address was written on these letters. Chuck realized that it was the current address of the house, 825 Forest Road. He understood now that the old address and the current one were the same, and that's why the spirit came to this house. It once belonged to her. He rushed upstairs to get Isabel. They had to leave immediately, but Isabel was standing there silently. Meanwhile, Luke had also started believing that something strange was happening with Maria. He deliberately asked her the name of her daughter. Suddenly, Maria started screaming loudly and laughing like a maniac. A few moments later, everything went silent. Luke thought the spirit had left, but just then, Isabel's eyes widened in shock. An invisible hand had gripped her shoulder. Chuck saw this and ran towards her. He quickly tried to save Isabel, but suddenly both of them were pulled into the old room by an invisible force. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notification so you can watch more videos like this.